Welcome back, boys. You'll remember last time, perhaps, that I read you a story about a lion and a mouse, and it was taken from this very famous book, written by a man who lived 2,500 years ago, we think. His name was Aesop, and he used to live in Greece, and he was a slave. But more than that, he was a really, really good storyteller, and he wrote lots of stories for children your age to teach us how to live better lives. And I've got another story of his that I'd like to read you. It's about a miller and his son and their donkey. If you don't know what a miller is somebody who grinds wheat into flour. And Mummy and Daddy will use flour a lot. Maybe you use it when you help them cook. We use it when we make cakes. We make it when we use it when we make bread. All sorts of different things like that. So that's what a miller does, and it's a story about him, it's a story about his son and their donkey, and I hope you enjoy it. One morning, an old miller and his son set out for market. With them went their donkey, which they were hoping to sell that day. They went along slowly, pushing the donkey instead of riding her, because the miller and his son thought that they'd have a much better chance of selling her if she didn't look too tired. But as they went on their way, they met up with some friends who laughed at them as they went by. "Will you look at that? Why are you walking when one of you could perfectly well ride? How silly can you get?" The miller was a very serious and proud man, and he did not like to be laughed at. "All right," he told his son, "you ride and I'll walk." So his son climbed up on the donkey and off they went again. They hadn't gone far when they came upon some travellers resting by the side of the road. "Will you look at that?" they cried. "A young man like you riding while your poor old father walks? Disgraceful! Have you no respect? Get down, young fellow, and let the old man ride." The miller didn't like any arguments of any kind. "Good idea," he said. "Get down, son, and let me ride." And so they went on their way to market. As they neared town, they passed by some women, washing clothes in a stream. "Will you look at that?" they cried. "That poor old boy has to walk while that old fella has a nice easy ride. Shame on you, old man. You should let him ride there with you." "If you say so," sighed the miller, not wanting to upset anybody. "Up you get, son. We'll ride together." So now, as they came into town, they were both riding together on the donkey, who was looking rather tired and fed up at the same time. The moment the market traders saw them coming, they ran out to protest. "Will you look at that?" they cried. "You should be ashamed of yourself, loading up a poor old donkey like that. She's tired out, poor thing. Both of you look pretty fit and strong. Instead of just sitting there weighing her down, you should get off and carry her." "I hadn't thought of that," said the miller. "We'll give it a try." They tied the donkey's feet to a pole, hoisted her up, and off they went, carrying the donkey between them, slung on the pole. When the townsfolk saw them, they laughed and jeered. The donkey did not like being carried at all, and she didn't like being laughed at either. So she began to struggle and kick. She kicked so hard the pole snapped and the ropes broke. Once free and back on her feet, she ran off into the crowd and escaped. No matter how hard the old miller and his son looked for her, they never found her again. So in the end, they went back home feeling very silly, for they had lost their donkey as well as their dignity. If you try to please everyone, you end up pleasing no one. Now, boys, the reason I like this story is because sometimes people will tell us we're doing the wrong thing, And sometimes they may be right, but sometimes they're not. Sometimes maybe they just misunderstand why we're doing something. And so it's really important that we learn the skills to be able to explain with words why we're doing something. It's a big posh word for it, and it's called eloquence. And when you're young, that's what your teachers are trying to encourage you to do. So when you're in the situation like the miller and his son, and somebody criticises you for doing it, rather than agreeing with them and constantly changing your mind, you can listen to them. And you may think, oh, it's a good idea, but you may think, no, I'm right. And then your ability to try and explain why you're doing something really clearly to people is very, very important. And it's important also that we have confidence in why we're doing something. So that's why this is a very important story, and I hope you enjoyed it. Have a lovely day.